So thanks so much, everyone, for making time for this training today. I'm super excited to have Alohi Gomes with Holly Makua to be giving us this training. She was connected to me by G. So I'm so glad for Alohi to be here and super excited for this follow-up to our first trauma-informed care training probably almost a month ago. Um, so Alohi, as we mentioned, our team is across the islands, and we've got both folks who are sort of on the ground delivering face to face to the kupuna, as well as folks on the phone lines who are chatting with the kupuna. So I will let you take it from here. Welcome, Alohi.
Thank you. And your team did kind of fill me in, your leadership team did fill me in as to like what your job kind of entails. That way I can actually make sure everything I say is pretty much something that you can take home. That's the goal. So we're just gonna start off with the first. We'll keep it rolling. So you let me know if you guys have any questions. Um, and if you want to clarify something. What I will say though is sometimes just the way that I present, I'll introduce something, give it a little bit, and then I'll add to it. So if you do have a question, give it a few slides to kind of like boil and then go, oh yeah, I shouldn't say it, let me ask. And just let me know, okay? Definitely want this to also be a conversation with you folks. So, good afternoon, good morning. I don't know where everyone's calling in from, so I'm going to assume just hello. So, to start us off, I titled this presentation as It's Not Just a Question. The reason behind that is because it really isn't. It's not, nothing is at face value, right? And it kind of adds to my overall feeling that trauma-informed care is not just what you guys had learned, like the definition. It's way more than that. So moving on to the next slide. So who's talking to you? You guys are probably like, where did this girl come from? So first things first, introduction. So my name is JC Gomes. I'm fondly called by Alohi. I am a Maui girl, born and raised. I'm sorry, I apologize ahead of time. So sometimes things will slip my mouth and I'll go, oh, yeah, okay. That just happened. Sorry. We're kind of known to be like a cruise with it, roll with the punches kind of people. So I'm very, very not surprised that I'm a social worker. And then I'm family first. So in the photo that you see is my beautiful family, and then on the right is my other half, Isaac. Um, Currently, I serve as the director of social services at Halemakua Kahalui. It's a nursing home, so we have long-term care, skilled nursing, rehab, and adult day health program. The state of Hawaii and long-term care agencies, all the good people above us, they have what's called federal regulations. So in order to have a nursing home over 120 beds, you have to have a licensed social worker on staff. So our beds are about 256-ish, which we're licensed for. So you have to have a social worker on board. So that's myself. Some educational background on me. So I got my bachelor's of social work. I'm a social worker through and through. So bachelor's of social work with concentrations in chemical dependency and victimology. I did that at St. Martin's in Washington. And then I came back home, Gobos, kind of have to do it. And I got my master's of social work and the specialization field that I went into was child and family. So kind of that recurring theme, right? What I really loved about my undergrad and my graduate programs was I was able to really hound in and like zero in on indigenous social work practices. Something really prevalent in that is trauma-informed care. So it's no surprise that when I get the opportunity to talk about trauma-informed care and protecting yourself, I will jump at that opportunity. Um, so I've always wanted to be a social worker. I drew pictures, when they ask you as a child, oh, what do you want to be? And there's those kids drawing like a flower. I'm going to be a gardener or whatever. I don't know. I want to be a teacher. I literally drew a house. Okay. I'm not even joking. I drew a house, and in all my rooms, I had kupuna. I had dogs and cats, mostly dogs because I'm not a cat person. So I had a lot more dogs than cats, but you still gotta love the cats. And I had veterans and babies, and I told everybody that I'm gonna take care of all these people. And my teacher at the time was like, "Oh, that's like the worst paying job." She goes, "You should have. Oh man, why'd you do that?" And she's like, "That's a social worker." And I was like, "That sounds, I don't know how I feel, social worker or worker for the social. I'm very, I like my alone time. So I was like, oh, I don't know if I like this. And then in all aspects of my life, like social work came about, right? So like Lili Trust, being able to benefit from their programs over there, getting connected to an amazing social worker through that, um, being that my mom's a teen mom, right? I got amazing opportunities from those social workers that were involved in my life, never really in a negative way. So I didn't really grow up thinking that that was a bad person. I always had this positive outlook on who they are and what they do for my community and myself. And they were always looking like me. They were always brown and beautiful, and they had, they spoke Olelo. They talked to me, however. So I never really had that, I guess that kind of experience that a lot of people have with social workers. So when people give that back talk to me now, I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. So I can only imagine sometimes when you guys are on the phone, right? You're like the person on the other side is like, and who are you? I I always get that. So I'm sure you guys know that just in the field you guys chose to be in, yeah. So what I want to make sure that we really talk about today is how to take home the big feelings that you're being told on that phone, right? Maybe it's not in your face and you can't see them. So sometimes your imagination really doesn't do you justice. It actually hurts you sometimes because you can't see them. You don't know if they're crying, you don't know if they're huffing and puffing because they're upset. So there's a lot more going on, especially when you're on the phone. So we're gonna build on it. Let's build on it. So this presentation and training is what I would like to consider that foundational steps to really understanding trauma-informed care. That yes, it's a mindset, it's a shift in how we treat others. But also, in a nutshell, like this is my soapbox of if you're new to social work and you're new to this type of work, what do I need you to be equipped with? What do you need to have in your toolbox so that you continue to do this work and you don't go, okay, thank you, 2 weeks notice, bye bye, gotta go. We don't want that at all, at all. So this is a simple way of taking very complex feelings and really working through it. And yeah, again, if you have any questions as we go, you please let me know. So as you guys already learned in your other presentations, trauma-informed care is a healing and recovery approach that looks like, so what does trauma-informed care look like? It looks like understanding and recognizing the signs and symptoms of trauma. You reduce the risk factors of re-traumatization, and you promote the healing and recovery. Like that's the approach, right? You guys already got plenty of training on that. You're probably gonna get more training on that kind of stuff too. Um, and I don't want this to be the last time we talk about trauma-informed care, but it kind of is because trauma-informed care is so much more than this approach. In order to really lean in on trauma-informed care, you got to understand everything that we're going to talk about today. So, what are we going to talk about? We're going to set the basics, right? So, we all got to understand what elder abuse, the definitions and the signs and symptoms, all that good stuff. We got to understand it. We also got to understand some theories, like the iceberg theory, the self-determination theory, and motivational interviewing. MI is my favorite. And our impact. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about what our impact means, but our impact. So, that's the vicarious trauma, the compassion fatigue, and the burnout. So, at the end of the day, you really gotta clock out, right? You clock in, you become this person when you're clocked in. And then when you clock out, you have to turn it off. It's so easy to say, yeah, so easy to say. And that's the point of my presentation is to really talk more about that. So before we can really dive into it, I gotta make sure we set the stage, right? And I keep moving you guys away because I'm trying to make sure I see the nods. And like, oh gosh, it's okay, we'll get there. So definition of elder abuse, right? I love this definition, so I will always give credit where it's due. So the National Center on Elder Abuse said, any knowing, intentional, or negligent act by a caregiver or any other person that causes harm or a serious risk of harm to a vulnerable adult. Harm. Okay. That that in itself needs its own presentation. What is harm? What does it mean? What does it look like? So Go look it up. Okay. Go see and really absorb all of the different resources that they have out there for building your understanding of what elder abuse looks like. The more you understand these things, the easier everything we talk about later is going to come to you. So signs and symptoms. So physical signs and symptoms of abuse could be like unexplained injuries, right? So if they have what I see a lot here at the because I work in elder care, is their wheelchair, right? Kind of sits heavy on their arm or their elbow might hit their wheelchair. The wheelchair is not always the most comfortable thing, so we always pad it up, right? Put blankets or get a padding for it. But a lot of the people who we've never seen them before, and this is their new time, this is their first time using a wheelchair. Yeah, you're gonna scoot your elbow back and scratch off the plastic. That's an explained injury. I know exactly where that came from, right? I'm pulling myself up and now I have scratches right here. That's explained. I know where that came from. What's not explained is like a bruise over here, like two fingerprints, or by like inappropriate areas. There's a bruise. It looks like handprints maybe. Kupuna, their skin integrity is so different than ours, right? We can shower every day and we just moisturize and we're good. Next time you guys are around Kupuna and you are able to have the opportunity to touch them and to really be around them, you'll start to see that skin difference. That's where really it's kind of easy to tell abuse and injuries with Kupuna. Very different from children and us, right? We heal pretty fast. Or you can at least see the different variations of like the what is it called?
Hi, do you have like the pizza bites? That one? Okay.
The
Can I get a
we'll see that
um
their bruise might not heal all the way. Or their bruise might stay, whoever does nursing, the bruise like has these little stages, right? Their bruise might stay in stage 2 for forever. And it will never actually heal because the skin actually got discolored because of the blood, right? So it's actually really interesting how their bodies are so much different than ours. And emotional stuff. So changes in behavior, depression, they're more anxious. Or they have behaviors all day long. They yell out, right? They're scared, they're confused, and then they stop. That is a change in behavior. Positive or negative, that's still a change in behavior. And then you have neglect, so preventable injuries. So leaving without a plan in place. So abandonment and neglect, they kind of coincide hand in hand, because neglect could be abandoning, right? Abandonment. But abandonment could not be neglect. It's specifically about the idea that you did not have a plan in place for their caregiving. And neglect is you could have had certain things in place, right? So it's like, well, they're different. And you have to really give it that time to go, okay, is this abandonment? Is this neglect? Is this emotional? Is this physical? And then, of course, going down the route for sexual and financial. So changes in mood. Oh, isn't that emotional? No, it can also be a sign and symptom of sexual. And the unexplained injuries. Isn't that physical? No, it can also be. So nothing's really cut and dry when it comes to them, especially because the way that their bodies are and how they react to different things. Even like medication changes can make all of this go out the window. So someone who would have had changes in mood or whatever, say we give them a medicine for their mood. Now you can't detect the abuse at all because they're taking medicine that kind of covers it. It's a little hard. So yeah, and then financial changes in spending and accounts. That's pretty easy to spot because it's very obvious, right? It's all numbers. You can't fake numbers. One day they have $100, the next day they only have four, and a random person pulled it out, right? That's not okay. The next thing, and this is where obviously you're gonna see that I'm gonna get a lot more comfortable. um, this is my everything, okay? I love this stuff. There really isn't an iceberg theory. I know I put iceberg theory, but there's not really an iceberg theory. There's many names, and we give it all these different names, and in layman's terms or in like a nutshell, it's just the iceberg theory. So there's iceberg theory in psychology, there's iceberg theory in parenting, there's iceberg theory in what is it called? In writing, in literature, right? Like you give them a little taste and then they gotta think about it or they gotta like, assume stuff, right? There's good and bad, whatever you want to take from it. What I need you to take from it is what you reveal versus what you conceal. So the conscious mind is what we reveal, what we show everybody, what we're aware of. And then the unconscious mind is what we conceal. This is stuff that we don't always think about, but it continues to influence our behaviors. So you might not be thinking about that time back in 1999 when something had happened. You don't think about it all the time. It's not something you say out loud, but maybe you do something to avoid it, right? You got to think about like what you learned when you were a child. So don't touch the stove because it's hot. You don't think about those things, right? You don't look at the stove and go, "Oh, that's hot. I'm not going to touch it." Right? You don't do those kind of things. It's very unconscious. It's like subconscious, right? When you talk about it. Um, I obviously also have notes that I'm not reading, so I apologize because I'm getting really excited because I see the heads nodding. How this relates to what we're talking about, sorry, because I also do have two screens. How this relates to what we're talking about is this is our clients, right? The people we talk to. So taking that same thought process of what we always see and what we don't really see, right? So apply it to your clients. What we can observe, right? And what we can't observe. Taking it here. Anger, them yelling at us, right? These are the things that we can see. Okay, we see PTSD. Oh, they can't move on. They can't move on. Just move on. It's fine. That's what we see. What we don't see, what it actually is everything here, plus more. So I don't know if you guys remember I said in the beginning, you have to really understand this so that we protect ourselves for what we're talking about after. We're almost there. In case everybody's like, oh, I thought we were gonna learn how to protect ourselves. We're almost there. Almost there. This understanding is how you really give yourself grace, right? And then you can give other people grace. But grace is not it's not different than accountability, right? You still have to hold everybody accountable for their actions, behaviors, etc. But you can give them grace. You can make sure that you understand where they're coming from. They understand where you're coming from. Thumbs up, we're good. But I'm still going to hold you accountable for what you're saying. And you still have to hold yourself accountable as well, right? So going back, next one. So self-determination, we're going to move on to self-determination. So you are in control. You make the decisions, good or bad. That's your decision, right? So I'm saying your, and then now also apply it to your clients. It's their decision. It's their life. I know you're sitting on the back of the screen going, oh, okay, you haven't eaten because you don't want to stand in line for food bank. Simple, stand in line. They can't. They don't want to. They can't. They don't have transportation. They feel some type of feelings when they're standing in line, right? Good or bad, that's their decision. Bottom line is it's their decision for this. You don't get to tell them what to do, respectfully. You don't get to tell them what to do. And sometimes that's a very hard pill to swallow, especially if you're an older sibling or you're a parent. It's pretty hard when someone tells you you cannot make someone do anything, right? You're like, oh my gosh, I have dishes, I have this. It's not that simple. These are actual things in their lives that you aren't in their shoes, yet you're kind of offering them solutions. Who are you to them? Who are you, right? You're like, oh, I'm the social worker. I'm the person getting data. I'm important. You are, but are you? Are you? Like, really got to think about that. Like, you really have to put yourself back in the shoes of your client. Who are you? You're just someone calling them. You're just one more person asking them a question. And it's hurtful sometimes. It really hurts as a caregiver, as someone who provides this service, because you know how important it is for them to answer the phone. Come on, just answer the phone. Just stand in line. That's all you gotta do. That's not all they have to do. That really isn't. It's not that simple. So what I love about self-determination theory is it's the feeling that you have the choice and you're willing to sign up for it, right? They are the decision maker. Then you have the competency. I can do it. I know what I'm doing. I got training in this. I got, I know I'm good. I've lived experience that helps me make these decisions. I have competency. I have confidence even. Relatedness, right? I want to be part of this community, or I want to be better. I want to be like my aunt who, is amazing. I want to be like my caseworker or the lady on the phone who sounds so kind. I want to be like that, right? You have that. And at the end of the day, you give somebody the power to make their own decisions. You provide them with the toolbox to say, hey, this is how you make your own decisions, and this is how good you're going to feel, right? And you push them to that motivational line of you just tell them how good it feels. It's going to feel good when you get this. You just have to be the person that says yes. At the end of the day, a lot of them are going to say no, and you got to be okay with that. It's not your fault that they said no. Because guess what? Self-determination. At the end of the day, as hard as it sounds, as like it's like, oh, I know what's right for them. Yeah, maybe you do, but they have to learn on their own. And all you can do is provide them with the tools that motivate them to get what they need to get done. But at the end of the day, if you get them to make a decision, not good or bad, right? It doesn't matter. You get them to do a decision, you did your job. You did an amazing job even by providing them the confidence to make a decision for themselves. Even if it is like we were talking before, oh, you can't talk right now. Well, what's a good time that works for you? You know how many people just say, "Oh, I'll call you back tomorrow." Personally, as a client, if I were to say, oh, I don't have time right now, or I'm trying to make time for you because I know how important this is. I'm shushing the kids, I'm closing the doors, I'm, turning off the TVs. And you, as the person calling them, doesn't acknowledge that I'm making an effort to continue to be on the phone with you, that's not helpful to me, but it does feel really good. And I'm sure you guys have experienced this already when you say, oh, I can hear, I hear you have kids in the background. You want to call tomorrow when, they're in school, or what time works best for you? Putting that back on them and not telling them what to do, but them going, oh, yeah, you know what? Tomorrow at 12, I got to go dentist, so I can call you before. They don't need to tell you they got a dentist. That doesn't matter. But you just built that rapport that you didn't even really try. You didn't try. All you did was not direct and negotiate with them. You asked them a simple open-ended question. And that goes into one of my favorite things, which is motivational interviewing. Okay, none of you have to go be a social worker after this. I would love to learn more about each and every one of you and see what this job is to you and how you love this job. And at the same time, if you can, really, really lean into motivational interviewing. Personally, learning motivational interviewing helped me in my personal life, the way I talk to people every day. I will tell you too, I'm like really short and I'm a very stereotypical local girl. And when I walk into the room and I talk like this, people turn heads, right? You have that bias that everybody has. So sometimes I feel a little like, oh, they expect so much out of me. And then I pull out this motivational interviewing, language and stuff like that. And I just feel so motivated to continue to be in the spaces that I'm at. Again, just small tools, and we'll talk about it literally after this, but small tools that help you combat the stuff that you're going to start feeling after getting all this big feelings that you're learning about. So I love motivational interviewing. So MI is evidence-based approach. Basically just means that it's backed, right? There's multiple data that shows that this works for X, Y, and Z. For us in the trauma-informed care realm, it works for change, to motivate people towards change. The key is it has to be their idea. So remember we talked about self-determination, right? Self-determination. That's their plan. That's their goal. Woo, all them. How do we support that? How do we get them there where they understand that they can make their own decisions? They don't just have to check off boxes. We got to utilize motivational interviewing and how we talk to people. So you motivated them, you provided them a safe place with facts and compassion, which allows them to really lean into their self-determination, to actually be able to make a decision. Because half the time, like I said, good or bad, the goal is to motivate them to make a decision, any decision. And then you can work later on, right, on helping them make a good decision. But good is also, that's up in the air too, because what's good for me isn't always good for you, right? Um, at the end of the day, it's removing that can't, right? Removing the T. I can just say, oh, go remove the T. And I love this picture because I'm like, oh my God, you can see the T. Go remove the T. Yeah, go do it. Huh? Motivational interviewing, the way to get you to take off the T is, oh, I see that there's a T. It looks like it's holding you back. What's holding you back from saying you can do it? That T? Who said we need the T? Who said that has to be there? You have an idea of how we can take off the T? What kind of tools do you have in your toolbox? So it's a Sharpie, so you can't erase it. Can't erase it. Whiteout? And you're looking at them and you see the scissors right in front of them, but you're offering something different, whiteout. And they're like, no, I'm going to use my scissors. I'm going to cut this. Beautiful. We just mastered a change. And all we're talking about right now is a sticky note. So imagine some of the work that I get the opportunity to do with my clients, where we're talking about whether or not we sell Papa's house, or whether or not we have Papa on hospice services. So never do I say, oh, he's not looking good, gonna have to get hospice services. I go, what is his usual? Is he laughing the same? What do you see? What do you see changes? What do you think we can do? What do you want us to do? You want us to get him laughing more? You want us to get him comfortable? If you want that, the only resource I can think of right now would be palliative care or hospice services. I know it sounds scary, so I'm just going to offer it to you today and we can talk about it more tomorrow. Simple stuff like that. And it's just the way you speak to others. That's all it is. It's just a change in mindset and approach. So you're engaging on an evil on a level and equal field where you're not providing, what I really like. You're not providing unsolicited advice. You're not being confrontational. You're not directing them. You're not saying, oh, to fix your problem, you gotta call 1-800. You're not doing that. Oh, if you keep up the drinking, you go mock it. I'm pretty sure they know that. I'm pretty sure they know that. Okay. So how is that helpful to you and what you're trying to get done? It's not. Newsflash, it's not. It's not helpful, sweetheart. Just be one with them, be equal with them. Yeah. And imagine how amazing that feels when you do get the response you want. So I already kind of gave you some examples, but open questions like, ORs. I really like ORs actually. I use this in my personal life, like I said earlier, about the way I talk to people, and my other half, he goes, oh man, you social working me today. I go, no, this is just how I talk. I promise. I don't have that what is it called? The customer service voice. Everybody always says, oh, you get the customer service voice. I go, oh my goodness. Well, I guess I never clock out then, because this is just how I talk. And that's probably why I'm not experiencing burnout, and compassion fatigue, which I'm very, very grateful for. So we'll talk about that more. So open questions like, what concerns do you have? Instead of saying, why, your leg broken? Duh, yes or no, right? So you're gonna avoid those yes or no questions. You're gonna really hone in on the open questions, ones that help them open up. And you're being intentional about it, but they're not thinking, oh, this lady just asked me an open question. Now I gotta answer her with all the answers. They're not thinking about that. You're talking to them like they're a human. Okay, you're not on the phone. What's unfortunate is you guys are on the phone. You guys do have questions you have to ask. But there are ways that you can prompt yourselves ahead of time when you talk to them. If you need to hang up, if this is unnecessary, if this is causing you unnecessary harm, etc. I know you guys already do that. So take this and apply it how you want. But I am very impressed with what your leadership team has explained to me, what your guys' goals are and what you guys do, and how it's scary a little bit to get a no, or I'll call you back later. But at the end of the day, you're just getting answers, right? So don't take this and go change all your stuff, because please don't. You guys are already doing a great job. This is just to support that. And then affirmations like, well, you've done a great job on, right? You're doing a good job already. So how can we benefit? How can we help you? And then the reflections. I like reflections. Reflections confirm that you are listening. Okay, you are listening to them. If they provide you with the language, you got to use it. Okay, and you're probably like, what? If at one point in the conversation they told you, I'm just so frustrated, there's so many people calling me, and you go, oh, I can hear that this is upsetting. No, I can hear you're frustrated. I hear that you're frustrated. You use the words that they use, right? Unless they're not saying it and they're going, my head is all over the place. Then you can use your critical thinking and go, head's all over the place. They're probably frustrated or they're probably confused, right? And stay away from the accusatory language, like, oh, you don't know what's happening. Oh, so I hear that you don't know what to do next. No, I hear that the system is very confusing, right? You're not accusing them of not knowing. You're bringing it back and you're giving them the tools to be like, oh yeah, actually the system is confusing. I want to learn it. Not, I don't know and I'm dumb and I'm not ever going to get services because I'm not smart enough to figure out the system. Sorry. That's very different than the system is confusing, because it is. And there's a lot of things that we need to pull through, right? There's a lot of things that we got to go through. And sometimes it's frustrating. So where are we right now? Okay, so they have a couple more steps and we'll get to where we gotta go. You're never accusing them of not knowing, because the system is confusing. The system is very much, you call one person, they say, oh, that's the wrong number, you gotta call so and so, right? That's very frustrating for them. So imagine if you're asking these questions that are prompting them to think about all the people in their lives that they had to have a conversation with, especially in their going through the fires, right? It's hard, period. Okay, moving on. Summarizing. This really ensures that you are catching on to what they're saying. Not, oh, I hear you got a lot of stuff going on. What stuff? Were you even listening to what I said? I have 4 things going on. What do you mean stuff? When you say stuff, it makes me think that I don't know, it makes me feel like I'm not paying my bills or something. When you say I got stuff going on, I get baggage. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear exactly what I told you I have going on. Like I'm struggling with food, I have food insecurity, or you know what I mean? I want you to assume I have stuff that's language-wise, especially in Hawaii. It's important you really summarize what they're saying and you use the same language that they use. Especially with the differences in the people you're going to come across, especially our Kapuna. They're very old school. They're very old school. And some of them like to say they're not. But have you had a conversation with some of them? Yeah, we're gonna leave it at that. Attending to the language of change and exchange of information. This is extremely important. This is the difference between motivational interviewing just being a good way to talk to people and it being an actual tool to empower others to get what they need to get done. So enough about motivational interviewing. Let's talk about this a little bit. Cycle of change. At no point do I expect you guys to learn this and take it everywhere. But I think personally, in your own personal toolbox, you should know this. This is where you hear a lot of people like, oh, they relapse. Yeah, AA, they go through AA, they get all these tools and then they relapse. Kind of like that, but you're thinking about it in any realm. So you have the pre-contemplation, right? Hold on, wait, I gotta move your guys' heads out of my way. You have the pre-contemplation, you have the contemplation, right? You're aware of it, but I'm not gonna do anything about it just yet. Preparation. You know what? I'm aware of it. I'm gonna try to get some stuff done. What am I gonna get done? I'm not too sure yet. No, yeah, I figured it out. I'm gonna get this done. Action. I'm going to change whatever I have to change to do. Then maintenance. Okay, I figured out what I had to do. I'm doing it, and I'm gonna continue to do it because I see that the change is positive in my life. Or I'm not gonna do it because I realize this is not working for me. Personally, when you look at this, this spiral, relapse, in my opinion, when you talk about change and just everyday life, it's not a bad thing. It means that when you came to maintenance, you found out that whatever you prepared for and the action you took did not work out for you. So you got to go back around. It doesn't mean that you relapsed and you're a horrible person because you don't know how to fix your attitude. It's not what it's talking about at all, at all. In different language, of course, relapse is negative. Oh, that means they, couldn't stop drinking or whatever. But we're not talking about that. We're specifically talking about changing anything in your life. A lot of the time when we talk about the social work stuff, it's a lot about don't drink, don't do this, don't do that. But a lot of it's like, what if I just want to water my plants every day? Like, what if it's simple stuff? Or I want to treat myself kindly more, right? So you can apply anything to, look, I'm making one circle, sorry. You can apply anything to this cycle of change. Okay, now the juicy part and the end-ish. I'm like looking at you. This is kind of end, I'm sorry. So our impact, right? So I'm gonna move you guys over here. So we talk a lot about our impact, right? Our impact being the impact on others. Oh, so amazing, right? We get answers from people. We get data. We submit it, right? We get funding. We get more services. We're the background people, right? Everything that you guys collect is all behind the scenes to so many other programs that no one's ever gonna be like, oh, yeah, the only reason why we got funding is because that one lady in Oahu sitting in her office called 20,000 people and got data for us. No one's gonna talk about that, right? They don't give you guys credit where it's due. That's just how our work is always gonna be, no matter what part of the field you're in. And I would consider that you guys are pretty essential in the steps and the efforts that I make because I know how important it is to get data. Data is how we drive decisions, right? So if you guys aren't out there collecting data from these individuals, then we're not getting the correct information and we're not making the correct programs. And then my family, my friends, myself impacted by the fires aren't going to get what we need simply because you never call. Pretty cool, actually, when you think about it. So what we fail to talk about is not just our impact, like what we get to do for the community, but our impact, what this does to us. And I'm not talking about in the happy-go-lucky, oh my gosh, my work is so amazing. I'm talking about the stuff no one likes to talk about. Okay? Let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is vicarious trauma, compassion fatigue, and burnout. This is real life experiences. You are not just hearing a fable. This is an auntie from possibly down the street. So I'm Maui girl, yeah? And I've had to have, in my job here, I've had to have neighbors or kupuna out in Kula or even Lahaina who that's my sister's family, right? That's their side of the family. That's the lady that I babysat me. That's her family, right? So that's like right there. Um, praying at like that night, praying that my papa who lives over there is in my house. I pray that when I come home, he's sitting in my garage. He was, thank you, Jesus. But that feeling, right? That trauma, what is that? Like I never run from the fires. What are you talking about? Why am I having nightmares? Why am I going through this? I wasn't there. No, it's this. It's the vicarious trauma. It's the experience of those who are not firsthand. They're the second hand, the third hand, right? And then the compassion fatigue, right? Being able to identify that you're getting exhausted. You're depleting your resources. You're coming into burnout. What does that look like for you? How can we change that? So talk about it. And we're almost Paul. Okay, so everybody's like, oh man, we're on the home stretch, I promise. So vicarious trauma, what I love about what I'm about to tell you is they all go hand in hand. So if you're feeling something and you're feeling, maybe it's vicarious trauma, maybe it's burnout, maybe you're trying to find a word for what you're feeling, you're probably feeling all three. There's most likely you're feeling all three. That's kind of how it goes. A lot of them build off of each other. So vicarious trauma builds off of, or excuse me, burnout builds off of compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue builds off of vicarious trauma. You can't have one without the other. But you can experience compassion fatigue and not burnout. You can do that, right? You can experience vicarious trauma and straight into burnout. You can skip. It's a spectrum. And it also depends on how you learn about it or how you identify how you feel, right? So vicarious trauma, it happens quickly. This can be either because you listened to somebody, so you were a helper, right? Someone on the phone. You witnessed it, so you were right next door to assault that happened, or you were in your car and you saw a pile on or a pile up or something like that, and you learned about it, right? This is kind of interesting. So all the other islands that are on this call, those of you who only know about the fire because you had to watch it on the news or you had to get a call from a family member, you still have the ability to feel vicarious trauma. You it's the loss of life, loss of people. You'd be not human if you just go, oh, that was sad, move on. It's the experience. What's unfortunate though is sometimes people who are in helping fields, or helping professions, they call it, we didn't tackle our own personal traumas before being able to help others, right? So you have all that we're about to talk about. You have that. Plus, I never went to therapy. I don't believe in that. How do you believe in therapy and you work in this field? You you need therapy, not disrespectfully, but you just need it in your life because some of the things that people are going to talk about on the phone or say around you is going to trigger something. And if it doesn't, that's great. That's great. But if it does, you got to give yourself tools in your toolbox. It's very simple. So, right, so vicarious trauma happens quickly. The guilt is one of the main things, and that's what we always hear about, right? Survivor's guilt. That's part of vicarious trauma, secondary trauma. That is part of it. And your response, like, for example, the guilt for the fires. Oh, I was going through, I was in between jobs, so I couldn't spend money. Or, oh, I only dedicated 30 hours of my life to recovery efforts. Why do you have guilt? Why? Because that's part of what happens when you have this vicarious trauma. You're gonna have guilt. Some people don't. Some people outside of this group obviously looked at the fires and said that's sad. And whatever feeling they had, they were able to either bury it or they were able to move on. Obviously, if you're in this role that you guys are in, you feel some type of way about the fire. Positive, negative, ambivalent, you feel something. If you didn't feel anything, you wouldn't care and you wouldn't have sought out a job that cares about this topic. And that's just true, period. You guys are all, some of you guys are nodding like, oh yeah, if I never cared, I would have clocked out a long time ago. Yeah, that's how it is gonna feel. And you can't fault yourself for having those feelings. And so what does it look like, right? So some people have depression, some people have insomnia, they are hypervigilant, right? Nightmares, anxiety, obsessive thinking about it, just like can't sleep, or just everything they see, they also see that. And the PTSD symptoms. You know what's really crazy about this? It's the same as someone who experienced it firsthand. Everything on this list, no matter if you experienced it firsthand and the building was collapsing with you underneath, or if you were watching it from the news, your brain reacts the same way. It's pretty sad. And all the counselors that were involved, all the therapists that were involved in supporting this, all of them, no matter how many tools you have in your toolbox, all of them experienced some of this, some degree of this. So now it's about how do we fix it, right? How do we combat this? So compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue, it takes time to go through this. It's the desire to combat or remove the suffering of others, so compassion, right? And the fatigue, very simple. Exhaustion, the lessening of your ability to care. Compassion fatigue. It can look like insomnia, exhaustion, headaches, muscle tension. It can also look like substance use. You start drinking or you drink more. Anger, exaggeration of your role. So this right here, the exaggeration of your role, you got to really understand you are just a worker. You are not some higher above person. You cannot snap your fingers and their pain goes away. You cannot do that. And also, they have self-determination. So if they don't want to, they won't. That's hard to swallow. Like I said earlier, it's a hard pill to swallow. And then difficulty clocking out. That's the whole, when you clock out, you gotta clock out, right? Sometimes when you clock out, you're up at night, tapping, thinking about it, having these other feelings, right? Honestly, when the fires and everything happened, every single conversation that I had with Kupuna or their families, it replayed in my head like a tape. It was pretty amazing how your brain does these things. And mind you, I get everything in my toolbox. I know exactly what to do, right? We're trained. But every single day before I would open my eyes, I would play the day before every single conversation I had. Simple or not, a good morning or not, every single face. And I've never had that experience until the fires where I could remember stuff. Mind you, I'm kind of like Dory. You asked me what I ate for lunch. I don't really know. Hopefully I ate, honestly. I don't know. But during this time, my ability to clock out went out the door. And that's not to anybody's fault. That's just how compassion fatigue, vicarious trauma, burnout, that's what it does to us. What does it look like for emotional? You have that guilt. Oh, I didn't do enough. Or, oh, I'm not doing what I need to do. Or I gotta run away from it because it's so I'm not strong enough, right? You have the depression, the anxiety, the loss of hope, the self-criticism, and then what's unfortunate, your inability to care kind of goes out the window. Your decrease in empathy is gone. Wow, I'm getting real sad stuff I'm sharing, team. I'm sorry. We're gonna talk about good stuff. It's my last slide. Literally, it's only one slide. No, it's two slides. And then burnout. So burnout is the depletion of what you have in your toolbox. So you no longer have anything in your toolbox. You already used all the wrenches. I don't even know what is in a toolbox, in a real life toolbox. Screws. Um, screws. There's two of them, Phillips and the other one. There's a bunch of different stuff in your toolbox, right? I don't know. In my toolbox, there's motivational interviewing, stages of change, icebergs, right? So I can tell you that. But those things are gone. Your sense of understanding the system is gone. You you exaggerated your role. You think that you are able to do everything and you're not giving yourself grace. Um, and on the other side too, it depends on the amount of stress and your coping mechanisms. Do you have enough coping mechanisms for the amount of stress that you're dealing with? Is your stress this much and your coping mechanisms is only good for this much stress? Obviously, we're gonna have some compassion fatigue. We're gonna have some burnout. It's gonna happen. And this is where, and this is kind of funny, but this is where you see people go on those long vacations, those 2-week vacations. Yeah, they spend their life savings at Disneyland. Guilty. Or they role change, right? They're in the field and then now they're working in the office. Or they were in the field in the office and now they're working from home. Okay. That's a little bit less. They're probably managing their burnout a lot better. And then you have those who they're gone. It's done. Career change. Never coming back to social work ever again. Never coming back to the phones. Never doing it again. That's kind of the gist of it. You can be one of the three. Weekends in Nashville, a month at Disneyland, desk job to now on the field or field job to now on the desk. or you just leave in all honesty, you just go. And none of it's your fault. Or is it? I don't know. I'm just a social worker. I don't really know this kind of stuff. Is it your fault? I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot more stuff, right, to talk about. Because I say this, right? Is it your fault? It's just a job. It's just a job. You couldn't handle it. That's why. That's why you burnt out. You couldn't handle. No! This is complex. Like I said earlier, complex, real life. This is not a book you read and you're getting all excited at the store. That's not what it is. This is real life experiences, and their words had an impact on you, right? I'm giving everyone time to read if you got to, but your 10-minute conversation with them, right? Or 20-minute, however long it took, you changed their life probably. You that was amazing. You did so good. And now everything that they said was so good. Everything's so good. And then you hang up the phone and your shoulders drop because you realize what they said. You realize that, yeah, I connected them to Meals on Wheels or something like that. Ah, the shoulder drop. You know why they needed Meals on Wheels? Because they don't have family to cook for them. Wow, they don't have family. They lost loved ones. Wow. You start really getting into like what they actually told you. So it has lasting impacts on you. And it's not always positive. A lot of the time, it's a negative impact on you. You're taking home that, wow, there's no resources in Maui. I'm asking 10 questions and I'm getting nowhere. What is this 20 questions that you guys ask? What real change is it happening? Like there's still no houses. There's still kupuna on the streets. There's what? Oh my gosh. And you go down that line of questions, right? Of just, man, what? What am I even doing here? You, okay, well, let's talk about it. What are you doing here? You gotta understand that your role is so much bigger than your role. It's not just something you clock in and out at, right? You guys need to give yourself that benefit that what you're doing matters. And it might not feel like it matters, and that might actually go into your burnout, your passion, compassion, fatigue, and stuff like that. That might make you feel like maybe I can't do this. Like this is too hard. I'm not making the change I need to make. You're one person in a team of 20. Okay, this every person needs a village, right? They always say, oh, a child to raise a child is a village takes a village, right? Why does a village only happen when you're a child? Just putting that out there. Why? Why only children get villages? Why can't I get a village? Why can't you get a village? So think about it like that. You're one person in their village. Your job is to be that one person in their village. That's all you are, one person. You're not supposed to be five people. You're not supposed to be their social worker, their caretaker, their advocate. You're not supposed to be all five. You gotta just be one. And you gotta be okay with just being one. You gotta trust that when you guys get off the phone and you refer them to me, the crisis manager or the crisis intake, you got to trust me that I'm going to do my job. I know it's going to be hard because you're going to be like, oh my God, that girl, she know nothing. Oh my gosh. You started off not knowing anything about the system, right? So you got to give me grace and you got to make sure that I can take care of that person. It's a team effort. It really is, especially with social work. So how can we combat this, right? Not just understanding that you matter, but also taking breaks, your vacation days, clocking out and staying out. Once you clock out, you're done. If your schedule is 4 to 10, your schedule is 4 to 10. At 11 o'clock, if you start feeling that, oh, everything I did is coming back to my brain, you really need to practice your self-care. You need to do your coping mechanisms. Because if you just let it go and you have one restless night and you don't do anything about it, you'll have two restless nights. It's just two restless nights. Nothing. I don't need to do. 3, 4, 5. Now you're burnt out and now you cannot. And now you're out of a job. Oh my gosh, even worse. Even worse. Now you just quit because you're so burnt out. And now you're not doing the work that you love doing anymore. Because you didn't pay attention to yourself the way you pay attention to others. Kind of sad. You're such good helpers in the world, but you cannot help yourself. That's sad. You gotta help yourself. You gotta trust that all the tools that you use to support others, those are tools you can use for yourself too. So what I like to do is spend time with those who bring me joy. And I always celebrate my wins, big or small. Always celebrate them. I have a to-do list. When I get that to-do list done, I text my other half and I say I did everything on my to-do list. He goes, "Good job." I say, "Yeah, I'm working on my second to-do list now." Celebrate it. Why? Why can't you celebrate it? It's your job, it's your life. You should be able to do those things. And then my last thing that I'll say is the burnout really makes you feel like, because it's so slow, it makes you feel like you changed. Like you used to be so good at your job and now you're not because you can't handle it anymore. Right? The work is the same, but you're going up and down. So now you're starting to think that maybe you can't handle it anymore because you didn't take care of yourself, and now what do you do? Right? So sometimes having all of this that isn't just restless nights and depression and anxiety. Sometimes it's panic attacks. You need to be aware of those. What is a panic attack? What does it feel like? What do I do when I experience those? When you have vicarious trauma and you're hearing all of this, that's kind of one of the most common things I see with people I work with, especially people in the helping field, is you get not anxiety attacks, you get the panic attacks. That's very dangerous. Okay, the SOB, the shortness of breath, the wheezing, the stuff like that, the actual physical stuff, not just the mental stuff, the physical stuff. When you start really feeling that and your coping mechanisms aren't working for you anymore, you need to seek professional help. So everything we talked about, what to look for, and all these different things that you got to start thinking about, it's just for you to have a foundation. Now you're going to take that, you're going to do your own research, you're going to talk to your own people, you're going to look at yourself in the mirror, you're going to say, I got this, but what don't I got and how do I get it? Not, oh, what don't I got? I cannot do this job because I don't got them. What don't I have? How do I get what I need? And then you go from there. Um, and I never know how to end presentations. I'll bring that like full circle. I don't know how to end it, so I'm just gonna, and we'll do questions. Does anybody have questions? I'm gonna stop this screen share if I can. You guys weren't on here before, but I was having a hard time with this screen share. Did I do it? It's okay.
Um, no questions, but that was an amazing slideshow. Just the way you explained everything, it's kind of like not so much feeling rehearsed. It's like, what your knowledge and what you're trying to educate us on. And yeah, it was good.
Thank you. And really, at the end of the day, it's just big concepts, right? Like for any of you who are like Ma'atu Hawaii culture, right? So like the Olelo no Eaus. It's just a saying. It's just a saying. But is it? Is it just a saying, right? Is it? You guys don't see, but I have them on my wall. Oh, here, actually, I'm gonna take it right now. You can see it. I have it on my wall, right? Don't forget. Words have meaning. Look, I'm too short. I'm not gonna be able to put it up. Words have meaning, right? You gotta really be okay with not being okay sometimes. Okay, anything else? I can ball out all day.
I second what Letitia said. No questions. I love what you were saying. And I was texting, I believe it's MP and Roy, them in the volunteer, that what you were saying about the call, like when we call, don't mind the county decided to do work behind me today. So don't mind the noise. But when it comes to setting up a call with the kupuna, that's something that I definitely found of value in my past, being with a nurse, being a nurse and stuff. And I was telling them like that's kind of what I want to do, because being boots on the ground with them and then working the back end, it makes sense because there's so many things that they're going through right now. And sometimes just giving them their own personal choice to decide, oh, is today a great day for you? Yes. If it's not, okay, we have a few other times that is good for you. It really lets them feel like the chaos that they have been going through is it's okay because people care about them and value their time. So I love that you yeah, you wrap that whole package up there. That was really my cut. Mahalo for all of this.
And then are you based in Maui?
Yes, I am. I actually live in Lahaina.
Oh, perfect. So you know how everybody kind of just went around for weeks on end saying, you better get it done now, because it's all gonna be done now. And they just like everything was just so you have no time. You have to follow my timeline, right? That is like goes against everything we talked about today. Like if you were to tell me I gotta think about like schoolwork, yeah, that's very different. Okay, obviously I need that to, get my degree, yada yada yada. But this is like my actual lived experience. You're gonna tell me stop crying so I can answer the phone?
Yeah.
But at one point in these people's lives, in these individuals in our community's lives, that was normal for them. They had to wipe their tears and answer the phone. And if they didn't, that was the difference between them getting a house or not. Like seriously? That's the life. That's what they have to go through. That's the people you guys are talking to. That's crazy. I honestly envy the fact that you guys get to talk to people. Because when they come to me, they're already not able to take care of themselves. They're already kind of so far gone, right? So yeah, I'm very envious of the fact that you guys get to be that people that ask them the questions and get that data for us because I know how important it is. So that's pretty awesome.
So thank you so much for your insight, Alohi. It was an amazing presentation, and I think very helpful for everyone to kind of, decompress